Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to my channel. I pray that you're all in the best of health and iman. If you are new, welcome. My name is Nafisa. I am a certified relationship and trauma informed coach. So if you're interested in being coached in those areas, you can find me over on my website, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. You can also find me on Patreon, where I help women build their feminine side. So if you're interested in that, definitely check me out over on Patreon. Why would a man 10 or 20 years older want to marry a girl who is that much younger than him? It poses a few questions as to why he's doing this. Now, can they fall in love despite the age differences? Can a man and a woman fall in love? Absolutely, that can happen. We know examples even from the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But of course, as we know, the Prophet, peace be upon him, was already known as a good man with good reputation, with the purest intentions. And so that is an example of how it can exist. And it doesn't always mean that just because a much more older man is going for a younger girl that we need to worry or that we need to panic. However, like I said before, we do need to pay attention to this, because unfortunately, the complete opposite is also true, that abusive men will often target young, naive girls. And the first reason is exactly what I've said before. They are naive. Young girls don't know what life is about. They don't even have that sense of self-identity yet. Their identity is still molding, is still shifting. And so because they can be quite naive, a bit clueless about relationships, they've never had any kind of relationship like that before. Maybe this is the first man that they are encountering or considering for marriage. And so they're quite clueless about a lot of things. And with this much older man who may be an abusive person, they can see that girl as an easy target, as someone who they'll be able to get away with whatever it is that they desire, because the girl's not going to know really what's happening to her. Much of his abusive behavior is going to be quite confusing for her, and he can easily manipulate her into believing that he's the one that wants the best for her and everybody else is an enemy, so let's keep everybody else out. So therefore, for the mere reason that we know that our young girls are very much naive, they're very much inexperienced in the relationship area, we need to be quite cautious in allowing them marry men who are far older than them. We need to make sure that as parents, we are vetting these men properly, okay? Like vetting them properly before we give our children away to them, because you never know. And a part of that vetting process should always be, like I always encourage, istihara. Always. And also make sure you go above and beyond to ask questions about who this man is, to try to find out his background, to try to understand his behavior, because much often than not, you find that these much more older men, they've had multiple failed marriages before in their lifetime. Multiple failed marriages. And in those failed marriages, they pretty much ended in the same way, because the man has these particular issues that it's ingrained in him, is part of who he is. And many women have suffered, come and gone in his life, and now he's looking for a young, naive girl who won't have a clue what's happening to her, so that he can have a better grip over her. So it is our job as parents to make sure that we are going above and beyond to really scrutinize and get to know the men, the much more older men who are coming for our daughter's hand in marriage. That goes for any marriage proposal, but especially when there's a massive age gap, because you want to understand, is this man genuinely interested in my daughter, or is there some kind of ulterior motives here? So their naivety can make them a target for abusive people. So it is part of our job to help to guide them, for them to understand and see this reality and consider it when making their decisions for who it is that they marry. Now, to my young girls who think you know it all, you think you have life all figured out, it's okay. We've all been there at some point where we really thought we could see life clearly for what it was, and we really could not. If your parents are coming from a loving and caring place, please consider what your parents are saying to you. If a man who is much more older than you is asking for your hand in marriage, consider the advice that your parents may give you. I'm saying consider, okay? Because sometimes parents can get it wrong too, right? But consider the advice that your parents give you, and really try to understand where your parents are coming from. Don't be all in your heart and I've got to follow my heart, but I love him and all of these things. Yes, that's all well and good, but it takes more than love to make a marriage work. I'm telling you, it takes more than love to make a marriage work. Just because you love somebody doesn't mean your marriage is going to be good. Okay? And we want you to be in marriages where you are loved and you are treated well and you are happy. Those are the kind of healthy marriages that we want you to be in. And you, my young, beautiful ladies out there, it is very important that you consider the reasons why a man who has that much age gap may want to marry you. Another point I really want to mention here, which pertains to you young ladies, is that I've noticed that a lot of you these days are just looking for a man who can take care of you. And by taking care of you, we're talking about the money, okay? And yes, it's most likely that a man who's made it will probably be in his 30s, in his 40s, okay? Some may be well established in their 50s. And if you're agreeing to marry this man because he's got the money and you don't really know how he's going to treat you, sis, I seriously advise you to reconsider that decision. Because yes, he may be able to provide the financial means for you, but that's not all it's going to take for your marriage to thrive. So please consider everything involved before you make a decision about marrying a man who is that much more older than you. The next point of caution here is the fact that abusive men who go and target younger girls know that younger girls are slightly moldable, or that they are hoping anyway that these girls will be moldable, meaning that they can change them and convince them to have the same mindset as the man, and that the girl will be easily more agreeable with whatever it is that he suggests, so he can essentially turn her into his ideal woman. Right? So they are seeing this young, naive girl almost as a blank canvas that he can change into whatever it is that he wants. The irony of it all is that, some of these young girls can be the most difficult people to try to change, because young girls these days are very clever, and the moment they sense that you are trying to control them, they are not having it. The other issue here is a lot of the young women, they haven't established that emotional maturity yet. And this is a price that comes with marrying young girls that a lot of men don't even think about, right? If you marry a young woman, she doesn't have that emotional maturity. She's not even that mature herself yet. So you are going to get the temper tantrums, yeah? You're going to get the reactions and behaviors that to you is just like, what's wrong with this girl? Why doesn't she understand? She's young. She doesn't understand. She hasn't matured yet fully, right? Mentally, is what I mean here. So you have that challenge to deal with. So for the men out there who are thinking, marry a young girl, she's going to be easy to mold, change, you're going to make her into what you want, we really need to stop with that mentality, okay? And in order to protect our young girls from men who target girls whom they can so-called mold, we need to make sure that we are educating our young girls very well, and we're educating them to a place where they can see and understand what that looks like for a man to try to control and change you. Because we don't want our young girls, even if they are young and they get married young, we still don't want them in marriages where the husband is trying to control them and mold them, right? We as parents have raised our children, and if we couldn't change them into what we want them to be, why would the man think that that is his job to now do? It's not his job, right? So young girls, just please be careful. Now, yeah, change can be a positive thing in terms of if your husband is encouraging you to do more good things and, come closer to Allah and all of that goodness. Yeah, that's fine. However, we're not talking about the healthy men here and the positive impact they can have. We're talking about a toxic man and the type of impact he can have. And the type of impact that a toxic man has is usually a negative one. So we definitely want to protect our girls from these men out there who are seeking for somebody else to quote unquote parent, right? That's kind of how I see it. They're looking for someone to parent rather than looking for a partnership where they can thrive together. Certain conditions we really want to be thinking carefully about is this much older man, has he been divorced before? Does he currently have other wives? Right? We know in Islam, polygamy exists. So does he have current wives? And if he already has one or two wives, why is he looking to get married again? Some men don't necessarily remarry because they're looking for love somewhere else. Some of them are looking to remarry because they want to have more children, maybe because the first wife or the second wife didn't have enough kids for him. Some of them are looking to marry for multiple reasons, right? Some of them are just taking marriage as kind of like this joke, you get married for a while, you can let her go if it doesn't work, or well, you have your other wife somewhere else, right? Some of them are doing these secret marriages all over the place. So we really need to try and identify what's this person's motive and what's going on in his life currently. What is his history like with women? If a man is 30, 40 years old, 50 years old, he has a history with women. Before you give your daughter to him, you want to find out what his history is with women and how he treats women, right? Why is it that his past relationships haven't worked out? Why is it that he's not with the mother of his current children? What is going on here? Before you just jump and give your child away, and before you young ladies think he's the love of my life and just put yourself in it, because sometimes you put yourself in it not knowing who you are yet. You haven't even established what you're about, what is important to you as a woman, as a young woman. You haven't established that. Then you hook yourself to a person, then 5 years into the marriage you're like, I've changed. I'm not who I was before. I don't want this type of a marriage anymore. And I was like, well, sorry, you made a commitment, so you got to stick to it, right? And of course, people can change at any stage of marriage, whether they marry somebody they loved or somebody older or younger. It doesn't matter. We can all change and evolve as we go along. However, what we really want to make sure that we're doing is that we're making a well-informed choice. And a well-informed choice is when you make a choice with everything considered and you've looked into things before leaping and jumping into it, so that you can take full responsibility for your decision once you are married. Another really manipulative thing that abusive men who marry young girls like to do is they like to get them trapped as soon as possible. How? By making sure they get them pregnant as quickly as possible, because that is some kind of a way to keep her locked into the situation where she may feel like she can't escape, because she now has her child to think about. Any man who is thinking about hooking a woman, whether she's young or old, for the purpose of then getting her pregnant very quickly to keep her trapped, is not a healthy person. Because a healthy person, a healthy man, he doesn't want to trap you. He wants you to be with him because you want to be with him. He wants to be with a woman who is committed to him, and he's not trying to trap any woman into any relationship that she doesn't want to be in. She doesn't want to be with him. He has enough healthy sense of self-esteem to say, okay, cool, you don't want to be with me? That's fine. It might hurt, but I'll be fine. And he moves on with his life with a woman who wants to do life with him. Marriage isn't something that we should be trying to trap people into, but unfortunately, for some of these abusive men, they look for young girls, they trap them by getting them pregnant very, very quickly, and now she is completely reliant upon him. Another point that relates to her being reliant upon him is that a lot of these men then stop the girl from going to school, furthering her education, and then they also stop her from working, so she has no income. So now she cannot grow personally as a woman. She can't get a degree. She can't further her skills. She's not allowed to work to have some level of income so she can have some level of independence. No. So now what happens is your young girls are now trapped in the situation whereby they have no money, they cannot get out, they have children they have to consider. Now this man can do all of the abuse he wants to do because she is 100% reliant upon him. And this is one of the reasons why I always say to girls, you always want to have something coming in for yourself. I don't care how little it is. I don't care if it's just your little business. I don't care. Just have something for you, okay? Because we all like to think that our relationships will last forever and everything will work and it will be all good. And perhaps we won't pass away before our spouses. And no, life happens. Sometimes relationships don't last forever. Sometimes partners pass away. Sometimes divorce happens. And then you're kind of left to start from ground zero. And when you're somebody who is 100% dependent upon somebody, when life happens to you, you are going to feel it really, really deep. Really, really deep. So it's always in your best interest, after the years of, raising your children, after your children are a little bit older, a little bit more independent, maybe they started school and things like that, and you don't have to be there 24/7 for them no more. It's time for you to start looking to do something for yourself. Now, young girls, I'm not saying wait until you finish your master's degree before you settle down and get married. That's not what I'm saying. Please do not misunderstand it. I am saying we need to have a balance. You can get married whilst you're still a student. If the man you're going to get married to has been vetted and he's a good man, you've prayed about it and everything is going smoothly, it doesn't matter your age, as long as you feel that it's something you're doing out of full consent and you're not being forced to do it, and you're marrying a good person and your parents are on board and everything, go for it. I know people who got married when I was in college, 18. I know people who got married when I was in university, between the age of 19 and 21. People got married, they were still students, right? Girls, ladies, right? They were still students, then they still managed to finish school, then had their children and everything. So it can work out. It's whatever you want for your life. But I don't want you trapped in a situation whereby you have this almost parent figure of a so-called husband who's trying to manipulate and control your life. So young girls, these things happen and there are men like this out there. So be careful. When a man who is 20 years plus your age comes to seek your hand in marriage, just make sure he's well vetted. He can, like the example of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that I keep saying, be a good man. He can be genuine, right? But let your parents help you with the vetting process, because at your age, 18, 19, 21, you really don't really see it. You don't see it, sis. You don't see it. And if the man is an abusive person, he will be very, very good at love bombing you. He will shower you with so much love. You will be convinced that this is an angel that God sent down for you. And you won't know what you really signed up to until you're married to him. So my dear, beautiful young girls out there, this is just a video of warning for you so you don't find yourself in one of these situations, okay? There's much to consider. I know what our heart tells us, but we cannot always follow our hearts. Our hearts are sometimes not correct. If no one's ever taught you that, I'm teaching you that now. Sometimes what your heart is telling you isn't correct, yeah? And you have to have a balance between following what's in your heart and also following your brain, right? And what your brain is telling you, what your head is telling you, and listening to positive advice so that you make good decisions for yourself. So my lovely, beautiful ladies, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you've enjoyed it, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Please make sure you share this video with any young girl out there whom you think this message will be beneficial for. And inshallah, I will see you guys in my next one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.